Barren sand stretched endlessly under a burning sun, the wind carrying whispers of an age long gone. Beneath the golden dunes, half buried and silent, lay a massive shadow of forgotten metal. The ship's hull was cracked but still defiant, its towers leaning yet unbroken. It had been 5 centuries since its last battle, yet the command deck lights still pulsed faintly, waiting for a voice that had not been heard for generations. Locals called it the ghost Admiral's ship, though. None dared step too close. They said it was waiting for its master to return, and that anyone else who entered never came back alive. On the far edge of the desert, a small caravan moved slowly toward the horizon. Among its travelers was a young historian named Rillin, carrying only a water pack, a journal, and an old data crystal. His eyes stayed fixed on the distant shimmer of metal peeking above the dunes. He had read about the ship all his life, but nothing in the old records had prepared him for seeing it with his own eyes. His family thought he was chasing a legend, but Rylin knew better. The crystal he carried contained coordinates, codes, and most importantly, the last recorded words of Admiral Cale Vayner. Before the war that ended the world, they will come for me when the desert swallows the sea, and I will rise again, to finish what was started. That war was unlike any in recorded memory. It began when the desert was still a thriving ocean, full of life and trade. No one knows what provoked the conflict, only that the skies burned for months and the seas boiled away in storms of fire. The Admiral had been humanity's last commander, leading an armada against an unknown enemy from beyond the stars. They said his flagship, the Eternum, could destroy whole fleets with a single volley. But on the final day, it vanished without a trace, swallowed by the shifting earth. Rylin had always wondered why such a powerful vessel would be left behind. As the caravan reached the last oasis, the leader refused to go farther. "The sands beyond are cursed," he warned Rylin, his voice shaking. "You'll find only death there. Some say the ship's engines still hum, and that its guns move at night." Rylin only tightened his grip on the crystal. The words "waiting for its admiral" played again and again in his mind. If that was true, what would the ship do when it realized its master had never returned? Crossing the last stretch alone, Rylin felt the ground vibrate under his boots. At first he thought it was his imagination, but the vibrations grew stronger as he approached. The massive black hull loomed over him, its surface pitted by centuries of storms. Then he saw them turrets, half buried in sand, slowly turning as if tracking his every step. Rylin froze. The guns stopped moving, pointing directly at him. He remembered the activation code from the crystal and whispered it under his breath. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, a deep metallic voice echoed across the desert, ancient yet sharp. "Identity scan in progress. Biological mismatch. Awaiting confirmation." The ground shook and a narrow walkway extended from the hull toward him. Rylin's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He was no admiral, but the crystal carried the Admiral's voice, recorded centuries ago. Slowly, he lifted it to the panel before him and pressed play. The voice of Admiral Cale filled the air. "Authorization Vayner." The ship trembled, its engines releasing a low hum that made the sand ripple like water. Then, to Rylin's shock, the massive entry hatch opened. Cool air rushed out, carrying the faint scent of oil and metal. Inside, lights flickered on one by one, illuminating corridors untouched by time. Rylin stepped inside cautiously, his footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. The walls were lined with ancient control panels, still glowing faintly. Holograms flickered to life, showing maps of distant star systems. Then he reached the command deck and froze. In the captain's chair sat a figure clad in dark armor, head bowed as if asleep. The armor was unlike anything Rylin had ever seen. Black as midnight with faint blue lines running across it. As he stepped closer, the figure's head slowly lifted. A pale face, human yet strangely ageless, stared back at him. The eyes glowed faintly, not with life, but with a cold mechanical light. The voice that came was not entirely human. "You are not Cale Vayner. Why have you awakened me?" Rylan swallowed hard. "I'm here to find the truth," he said quietly. "To know why you're still here." The figure stood, towering over him. "Because the war never ended," it said, turning toward the star maps as they shifted to show unknown fleets moving toward the edges of human space. "And the enemy has returned." The deck shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. Somewhere deep in the ship, engines began to roar. The figure looked at him again, its glowing eyes narrowing. "If you have the courage, you will take the Admiral's place. The Eternum does not wait for the dead, it waits for war." Outside, the desert trembled as the half-buried ship began to rise, the dunes sliding away like water. And for the first time in 500 years, the sky above the wasteland echoed with the voice of a warship ready to kill again. The Eternum groaned as ancient metal strained against centuries of sand. Panels slid open along its flanks, revealing weapons that still gleamed as if forged yesterday. The desert winds whipped harder, carrying clouds of dust into the air. From the command deck, Raylan could see the shifting horizon as the ship's sensors swept the barren expanse. The armored figure, its face human yet not, stood beside him, one hand resting on the control console. "Who are you?" Raylan asked, his voice unsteady. The figure turned, studying him with those faintly glowing eyes. "I am the Keeper," it said. "I was ordered to remain until the Admiral's return. My body is synthetic. My mind is the last echo of the crew." Rylan's throat tightened. "The Admiral is dead." "It's been 500 years. The Keeper did not flinch. "Then you will be his successor. You carry his command codes, and the ship has accepted you. That is enough." Before Rylan could respond, the console lit up with red warnings. A grainy hologram appeared, showing a cluster of dark shapes entering the planet's atmosphere. They moved like predators, wings slicing through the clouds. "Scavenger fleet," the Keeper said calmly. "They hunt for relics. If they find US before the ship is fully awakened, they will strip the Eternum and kill you." Rylan's hands curled into fists. He wasn't a soldier, but he had no choice. "Then tell me what to do." The Keeper's metallic fingers flew across the controls, summoning a series of maps and schematics. "The main reactor must be brought online. Without it, the shields will fail. The scavengers will breach the hull in minutes." Raylan followed as the Keeper led him through the dim corridors. The ship's lights flickered to life with each step, revealing murals etched into the metal walls, images of a war among the stars, of humans standing against towering alien war machines. The air smelled faintly of fuel and ozone. In the distance, the sound of ancient machinery waking up echoed like a heartbeat. They reached the reactor chamber, a massive cylindrical core suspended in the center of a glowing chamber. Pipes and conduits stretched outward like veins, feeding the ship's power grid. The Keeper handed Raylan a control rod wrapped in a protective sheath. "Insert this into the primary slot. It will restore the flow." Raylan hesitated, feeling the heat radiating from the core. "And if it doesn't work?" The Keeper's voice was flat. "Then the ship dies here, and so do we." Taking a deep breath, Raylan stepped forward and slid the rod into place. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the core flared to life, sending pulses of light racing through the conduits. The floor trembled, and the deep thrum of the Eternum's heart filled the air. The Keeper's eyes brightened. Shields online. Weapons warming. A distant explosion shook the hull. Raylan felt it through his boots. "They've found us," the Keeper said, its voice losing its calm edge. "Get to the bridge." They ran back through the corridors, the ship's walls vibrating as enemy fire struck the shields. On the command deck, Raylan saw the scavenger fleet more clearly, sleek, black ships circling like vultures. One of them fired a lance of plasma that splashed harmlessly against the newly raised shield. The keeper took the helm. "Do you wish to run?" it asked without looking at him. Ryland's gaze hardened. "No, if they want the ship, they'll have to go through me." The keeper's hand hovered over the firing controls. "Then give the order, Admiral." For a heartbeat, Ryland almost laughed. He wasn't an admiral, just a historian chasing an old ghost. But something in the way the ship's lights seemed to respond to him made his voice steadier than he expected. "Fire!" the Eternum roared. Twin lances of burning energy tore through the sky, cutting two scavenger ships in half before they could dodge. The remaining attackers scattered, but the ship pursued them, its weapons tracking faster than any human reflex. As the last enemy vessel exploded, Ryland exhaled slowly. His hands trembled, but the ship's guns fell silent. The keeper turned to him. "This was only a test. The true enemy is still out there." Ryland frowned. "What enemy?" The keeper pointed at the star map as it shifted again. Far beyond the desert world, a vast formation of warships was moving toward human space. Their design was unlike anything Ryland had seen before. Angular, predatory, and massive. "They are the ones the Admiral swore to defeat," the keeper said. "And they will arrive within the year." Ryland's mouth went dry. "Then we'd better be ready." The Eternum's engines flared brighter, and for the first time in centuries, the ship's bow turned toward the stars. The Eternum cut through the upper atmosphere, leaving a burning trail in the sky as it rose toward the void. From the command deck, the desert world looked small and fragile, its sands swirling in endless storms. Ryland stood beside the keeper, watching the planet shrink until it became a pale dot against the darkness. The warship's engines hummed with a deep, steady power that felt almost alive. "This ship was never meant to sleep," the keeper said quietly. Every second it was buried, the enemy grew stronger. Ryland kept his eyes on the star map. "Then we need to find out where they are now." The keeper's fingers danced over the controls, and a holographic map expanded, revealing dozens of star systems marked in red. "Their territory has spread like a disease. Humanity's colonies are scattered and weakened. If we are to stand a chance, we must reunite them under one banner." Ryland frowned. "And you think they'll follow a stranger? A historian pretending to be an admiral?" The keeper's glowing eyes fixed on him. "They will not follow you because of who you are. They will follow you because of the ship you command. The Eternum is more than a weapon, it is a symbol. In the old war, its arrival turned fear into hope." Before Ryland could answer, an alert flashed across the console. A small distress beacon was transmitting from a mining outpost on the edge of human space. The signal was weak, but it carried a human voice. "This is Outpost Varen. We are under attack, unknown ships." Shields failing, the transmission cut off in static. Ryland's pulse quickened. "Set a course." The Eternum's engines flared, and stars streaked past as the ship jumped through the void. Minutes later, they dropped out of faster-than-light travel, revealing a broken station drifting in the black. Fires burned along its hull, and escape pods floated nearby. 3 sleek enemy ships were circling like predators, firing on anything that moved. "Those are not scavengers," the keeper said sharply. "They are scouts for the greater fleet. If they find us here, they will report our location to their command." Ryland's hands tightened on the armrest. "Then we take them out before they can." The keeper did not hesitate. The Eternum's weapons came alive, hurling streams of energy across the void. The first enemy ship exploded in a blaze of light, but the others turned to fight. Their weapons were fast, slicing against the Eternum's shields with crackling bursts. "Shields at 70%, the keeper reported. "They are testing our defenses." Ryland leaned forward. "Then push them harder." The Eternum dove between the 2 remaining ships, unleashing a broadside that tore one apart in seconds. The last vessel tried to flee, but a single shot from the warship's main cannon turned it into a drifting cloud of metal and fire. Silence returned to the void, broken only by the hum of the ship's systems. Ryland's gaze shifted to the damaged outpost. Can we help them? The keeper nodded. Docking now. The station's airlocks hissed open, and Ryland stepped inside with a small rescue team of drones. The survivors were few miners, engineers, and a handful of children. Their faces shifted from fear to disbelief when they saw the towering silhouette of the Eternum through the VIEWPO. An older man stepped forward, his voice trembling. That ship, I thought it was just a story. Ryland met his eyes. The story's real, and the war isn't over. The man's expression hardened. Then you'll need more than stories. You'll need fighters. Back on the command deck, the keeper watched the new passengers being brought aboard. Your army begins here, Admiral, it said. Ryland didn't argue this time. He looked once more at the star map, at the red zones that marked enemy territory. Then let's make sure they know the Eternum is awake. The warship's engines flared again, and in the dark expanse of space, its shadow stretched long and ominous. Word of the Eternum's return spread faster than Ryland could have imagined. Ships that crossed their path sent encrypted messages back to their home colonies, each carrying the same short sentence: the Admiral's ship lives. By the time they reached the first major human settlement, fleets of small escort craft were already gathering, eager to join. But the sight that awaited them was not celebration, it was fear. The orbital city of Farpoint hung above a blue-green world, its docks lined with ships bristling with weapons. The colony's governor, a sharp-eyed woman named Marin Vuss, hailed them immediately. Warship Eternum, you are ordered to power down and submit to boarding. That ship is a relic from a dead war, and we will not allow it to provoke the enemy. Ryland glanced at the keeper. We need their support, not their suspicion. The keeper's tone was even. Then speak as an admiral would. Ryland opened the comms channel. Governor Vuss, the enemy isn't gone. I've seen their scouts. If we don't prepare now, they'll burn your world before you can even send a distress call. Her expression remained cold. And what do you expect me to do? Hand my forces to a man with no proof of who he is? The keeper's eyes flickered, and a hologram appeared beside Ryland, a battle recording from the old war. It showed the Eternum carving through an alien fleet, the Admiral's voice booming orders across the comms. Ryland didn't recognize the words, but their force was undeniable. Vuss stared at the projection for a long moment before speaking again. Doc, we'll talk. When they met in person, Ryland told her everything: the buried ship, the scavenger attack, the enemy fleet moving toward human space. At first she listened in silence, but when he described the mining outpost's destruction, her hands clenched into fists. I lost people there, she said quietly. If what you're saying is true, we don't have much time. Within hours, Farpoint's hangars were alive with activity. Crews worked alongside the Keeper's drones to repair the Eternums. Outer plating, refit its weapons, and stock its holds with supplies. Ryland walked among the workers, feeling for the first time that they were building something bigger than just survival, but not everyone welcomed the ship's return. On the far edge of known space, in a system choked with asteroid fields, a fleet of black warships gathered. At their center was a massive vessel shaped like a blade, its hull covered in shifting metallic patterns. On its bridge stood a tall alien with silver skin and eyes like cold glass. The reports from the destroyed scouts lay before him, their data feeds showing the unmistakable outline of the Eternum. So, the alien said in a voice like grinding stone, the last weapon of humanity breathes again. One of his officers stepped forward. Shall we send the first wave, Commander? The alien's thin mouth curved into something like a smile. No, let them gather. Let them think they can win. And then we will crush them all at once. Back aboard the Eternum, the Keepers. Sensors picked up faint bursts of encoded transmissions in the darkness beyond the system. "They know we're here," it told Rylan, "and they are waiting." Raylan stared at the growing formation of allied ships outside the viewport freighters. Retrofitted with weapons, patrol craft from forgotten colonies, even old warships pulled out of mothballs. "Then we won't give them the war they're expecting." The Keeper tilted its head. "Explain." "We hit them first," Rylan said. "Hard enough to make them rethink stepping into human space." The Keeper's eyes glowed brighter. "A preemptive strike. Risky. Dangerous." "Exactly," Rylan replied, his voice steady. "Something the real Admiral would have done." Farpoint's governor agreed to provide coordinates from intercepted enemy transmissions. The plan was set. In 2 days, the Eternum would lead a coalition strike into hostile territory, the first offensive in 500 years. And somewhere in the dark, the alien commander waited for them to come. The Eternum slipped through the void like a predator in deep water. Its hull darkened to hide against the stars. Behind it, the coalition fleet followed in tight formation, engines running low to mask their signature. Every ship carried crews who had never fought in a war, yet their eyes were set with grim resolve. Rylan stood at the center of the command deck, watching the tactical display. The enemy coordinates glowed in red, an outpost hidden inside a dense asteroid cluster. It was a forward base, a staging ground for the invasion of human space. Destroying it would slow the enemy, maybe even force them to pull back. The Keeper moved beside him, its voice quiet. "Remember, they will not expect a human fleet to come here. Our advantage is surprise. Lose that, and they will outnumber us 10-1. Raylan nodded, though his mind kept replaying the mining outpost's distress call. "We're not losing today." The asteroids loomed ahead, massive shadows tumbling silently through space. The Eternum wove between them with impossible precision, its thrusters firing in short bursts. Through the viewport, Raylan caught glimpses of enemy ships moored to jagged rocks, their hulls black and sleek. "Targets in range," the Keeper reported. "Your order, Admiral." Rylan drew in a breath. "All ships fire." The void exploded in light. The Eternum's main cannon cut through the nearest enemy frigate, splitting it clean in two. The coalition fleet followed, launching torpedoes that tore into docking platforms and fuel depots. Fires bloomed across the asteroid base, metal fragments spinning into the dark. The enemy reacted fast. Sleek fighters launched from hidden bays, swarming toward the coalition ships. Raylan gripped the armrest. "Keep our shields focused forward. Clear a path for the smaller ships." The Keeper's hands moved over the controls, and the Eternum's broadside batteries unleashed a storm of fire, shredding entire wings of fighters. But the enemy's capital ships were waking, 3 massive cruisers breaking from their moorings, their guns glowing hot. "Shields at 80%, the Keeper said. "We can take their fire, but not for long. Then hit them before." "They're ready," Rylan ordered. The Eternum surged forward, weaving between asteroids as it closed on the first cruiser. A single blast from the main cannon punched through its core, sending it drifting lifeless into the rocks. The second cruiser turned to retreat, but a wing of coalition bombers struck it in the flank, leaving it crippled. Only the third cruiser remained, its hull bristling with weapons. It opened fire in a relentless barrage, each shot shaking the Eternum's frame. Sparks rained from the ceiling, consoles flaring with warnings. "Direct hit to port side armor," the Keeper reported. "Damage minimal, returning fire." Raylan's voice was firm. "End it." The Eternum's broadside lit up, slamming the cruiser with a barrage so fierce its shields collapsed in seconds. The final shot tore through its reactor, and the ship vanished in a burst of white light. Silence followed, broken only by the faint hiss of venting atmosphere from shattered enemy craft. The coalition ships regrouped, their comms channels alive with shouts of victory. But the Keeper didn't celebrate. They will know what happened here, it said. This was not enough to stop them, only to make them angry. Ryland stared at the burning wreckage drifting among the asteroids. Good. Let them be angry. Let them come for us. Because when they do, we'll be ready. Far across the void, aboard the blade-shaped flagship, the alien commander watched the battle reports in silence. His glass-like eyes reflected the image of the destroyed base. Then, with a slow smile, he spoke. Finally, the prey has teeth. Prepare the war fleet. We end this in one strike. Asterisk, the stars burned bright and cold as the Eternum and the Coalition fleet gathered in the shadow of a dying red sun. The air on the command deck was tense, every crew member silent as final checks. We're run. Beyond the viewport, dozens of human ships floated in formation, freighters turned gunships, patrol craft bristling with missile racks, old war cruisers repaired just enough to fight one last battle. The keeper stood beside Raylan, its voice steady. They are coming, all of them. Raylan's gaze locked on the tactical map. Enemy signatures were appearing at the edge of the system, one after another, until the screen was a storm of red. In the center, larger than all the rest, was the blade-shaped flagship of the alien commander. They want to break us here. Raylan said quietly. They think if they kill the Eternum, the rest will scatter. The keeper's glowing eyes met his. Then make sure they fail. The first wave of enemy ships surged forward, firing before they were in full range. Bright streaks of plasma lit the void, hammering against the Coalition's forward shields. Raylan's voice rang through the fleet's comms. Hold formation. Fire on my mark. He waited until the enemy was too close for them to adjust. Now, the void erupted. The Eternum's main cannon fired in perfect sync with the Coalition ships, the combined volley tearing through the enemy's front line. Fighters poured out from both sides, weaving through the chaos in deadly swarms. Explosions bloomed like flowers against the black. Enemy flagship holding position. The keeper reported. They are letting their fleet weaken us before they move in for the kill. Then we take the fight to them, Ryland said. All ships, clear me a path. The Eternum surged forward, cutting a blazing line through the battlefield. Coalition. Ships closed in behind it, covering its flanks as they pushed toward the alien flagship. Enemy cruisers moved to intercept, but the Eternum's broadsides ripped them apart one after another. As they neared the flagship, the alien commander's voice boomed across the comms in a language Ryland didn't know, but the tone was unmistakable. It was a challenge. Translate, Ryland said. The keeper's voice shifted, repeating the words in human speech. You carry the shell of a dead man's ship. Let us see if you can carry his war. Raylan's reply was cold. Gladly. The flagship's guns roared, their blasts powerful enough to shove the Eternum sideways through the void. The deck trembled under Ryland's feet as alarms blared. Shields at 60%, the keeper warned. Keep firing, Ryland ordered. The two massive ships circled each other like predators, trading blows that lit the void in blinding bursts. The Coalition fleet kept the enemy reinforcements at bay, but the fight was brutal. Every time the Eternum struck, the flagship struck back. Harder. Then, Raylan saw an exposed section near the flagship's aft, where armor plating had been scorched away in a previous battle. Target that section. All power to the main gun. The keeper's eyes flared brighter. Acknowledged. The Eternum swung into position. The main cannon charged, its glow filling the command deck. The alien flagship turned to shield its weakness, but the Eternum fired first. The beam tore through its armor, piercing deep into its core. A shockwave ripped across the void as the flagship exploded in a cascade of fire and metal. The remaining enemy ships faltered, their formations breaking. Without their commander, their assault collapsed. One by one, they fled into faster-than-light jumps, leaving the battlefield littered with drifting wreckage. Silence settled over the comms before it. was broken by cheers from the coalition fleet. But Ryland's eyes stayed on the burning remains. Of the flagship. Is it over? He asked. The keeper paused, then shook its head. No, but today they learned that humanity still fights. The Eternum drifted slowly among the stars, its shadow stretching long over the broken battlefield. 500 years it had waited for its Admiral. Now it had found one dot, and in the quiet that followed, Ryland knew the ship would never sleep again.